What's going on, everyone? So in today's video, we're going to go over the NASDAQ, the SPY, the IWM, and the crypto markets. All right, so let's get right into it. In yesterday's video, I was saying that the SPY needed to reclaim this uptrend level, this blue uptrend line, right? And clearly you could see that it has failed to cross above still, right? And today, it's clearly acting as a very important level of resistance, all right? So you can see that the MACD now has crossed well above. We are not yet overbought on the RSI, which is a good sign, which means that there is still potential room to the upside on the SPY, because we are just consolidating a bit here. We haven't, cracked down below, and we haven't cracked down above, which means that, like, price being around this area means that people are either loading up on, to the upside or to the downside. So, I mean, overall, we just have to take this one day at a time and see whether or not the SPY can maintain 447.11. That would be the main level of support for the short term on the SPY. The NASDAQ, very, very similar to the SPY in that it also failed to cross above the uptrend level. So I was also mentioning that today, we needed to cross above this uptrend level, basically identical to the SPY. But we did not do that yet. And another very important thing to take into consideration is that we are trading outside of the upper level of the B band twice. So we opened and closed twice outside of the upper level of the B band. And now the MACD is extremely overextended, but the RSI is not yet overbought. All right. I want to go back to April, where you can see similarities. So we were very overextended outside of the upper level of the B band on the NASDAQ back in April, right? But we consolidated and then we skyrocketed on higher. So I want you guys to see the MACD here. So the MACD, when we were trading outside of the upper level of the B band, the MACD was right here. It was essentially almost the highest it was during this entire time. And then the next day, that's when the NASDAQ MACD peaked, okay? So the MACD was like at its peak, yet the price ended up going even higher, right? So this is negative divergence, okay? So this right here, when you're going down lower on the MACD, yet the price is going higher, that is negative divergence, right? But this negative divergence lasted from April 7th. We didn't start falling until May 3rd. Okay, so this entire month was just a month of negative divergence. Okay, so that is something that can potentially happen soon on the NASDAQ, because you can see that there are similarities to where the MACD was now versus April. So, it's not as high even. So the MACD currently is not even as high as it was back when we were very overextended in April, which means that there is some more room potential to the upside on the NASDAQ. But of course, to get a better understanding, we're going to have to take a look at the IWM, and then we're going to have to take a look at the 30-year yield. All right, so let's go ahead and just take a look at the 30-year yield first. So the 30-year yield clearly is not, it had 2 red days, which, is a good sign that the NASDAQ didn't also just follow downward, right? So the 30-year yield had 2 red days, and basically when the 30-year yield is doing well, then the NASDAQ is going to be doing well, okay? So currently you can see that, it has very important support down here at 162.18. If that breaks, then that can mean that the NASDAQ will start turning over as well. Okay, because you can see that the 30-year yield was also in an uptrend, it failed the uptrend, and essentially the NASDAQ equivalent is the NASDAQ is trading up here, yet the 30-year yield is, failed at this level here and is trading down here. Okay, so let's see if the NASDAQ catches up or if the 30-year yield can bounce. But the main thing is that we just crossed down below on the MACD, which means that there is more room to the downside. The RSI is, sharply moving downward as well. So those are some things to take into consideration, okay? So now the IWM. So I was very, very adamant about getting IWM calls because we were so overextended to the downside. If you would have bought IWM 225 calls, like I said in the video, I would buy them between 212 and 213. Those would be up at least 400 to 500% today. Okay. So you can see that the IWM actually crossed above key levels of resistance here. Yet the SPY and the NASDAQ were basically stagnant at those levels of resistance. All right, so the IWM crossed well above and held 220.87, right, which was what we were looking at yesterday. But then it failed today at 224. Okay, so now we need to see if the IWM will, stagnate a bit at 224, and then potentially 225, and then maybe we'll see money flow into the NASDAQ and the SPY while the IWM, consolidates a bit, because the IWM has been the clear outperformer versus the SPY and the QQQ. So there might be some profit taking out of the IWM, and then that money can go back into the NASDAQ and the SPY. All right, so that is really what we're going to be watching for. This play worked out perfectly. So that's really the analysis on the overall stock market. And actually, let's go ahead and look at the dollar real quick. So the dollar, it's clearly just maintaining this uptrend somewhat. So we need to see if tomorrow it opens down lower and it starts crossing down below this 20 exponential moving average. That would be a bit bad for the dollar. And then the next level of support for the dollar is going to be 92.45. So we just need to see how the dollar responds tomorrow, right? But overall, that's the analysis on the stock market. So now we can go ahead and talk about the crypto markets. I mean, look, like the crypto markets, they adhere to technical analysis much, much better than the overall stock market currently. So you can see that the Bitcoin, held the 50% Fibonacci level at 47,200, and that's holding as support. But then basically if it breaks, then we can see 45,700 and then 43,000. But those are going to be the main levels of support. The main level of resistance that we need to cross above now is going to be 51,374, because we did peak above 50,000, right? That's fine. But that was not a key level of resistance. The key level of resistance was 51,374. All right. So those are the levels on Bitcoin. Now we could go ahead and take a look at Ethereum. So Ethereum looks much better than Bitcoin. We can see that it's oversold on the MACD. The RSI is not yet overbought. And we are consolidating in somewhat of a bull flag formation. Okay. So let's see if Ethereum can continue on higher. You can see that Bitcoin, the MACD, is oversold now as well. So, there is a lot of potential room to the upside for the crypto markets currently. All right. We could see a consolidation back down to 45. At that point, the MACD will be very oversold on Bitcoin, and then it would just be a much better buying opportunity. Okay. So there's my analysis on the overall stock market and the crypto markets. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. I will see you guys tomorrow.